Thank you, Michael. And welcome, Your Excellency, Ambassador Anwarul Chowdhury. We are so happy to have you today.
Same here.
You have one of the greatest peace-building records of any diplomat who has served in the United Nations. What about your childhood in Bangladesh provided you with such a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of humanity and the need for peace?
Thank you, Dr. Shelton, for this question. But let me tell, growing up in Bangladesh, and when I was born in 1943, it was British India. And then it became East Pakistan in 1947. In 1971, I was personally a freedom fighter myself. In which way? I was at that time representing Pakistan government in India. And I decided, in view of the atrocities perpetrated in my country, thousands of people were killed, women were raped, and many flew to India as refugees. So I said, I cannot serve a government which is doing this to its own people at that time, but to my people. So I decided to join with other colleagues to declare our allegiance to the newly formed government of Bangladesh in exile.
So, when you first began work at the United Nations, you expressed the desire to elevate the voice of developing countries at the policy-making table, especially those countries more vulnerable to the geopolitical forces as well as climate change. How much success do you feel you've achieved in that effort?
Well, the United Nations did not have a person who is to look into the most vulnerable countries of the world. They were part of many other departments. But in 2000, the UN General Assembly created an office to look into this aspect. And this came out of a conference of the least developed countries, where I represented the developing world in negotiations. So when this position was available, and it was at Undersecretary General level, one of the highest positions in the UN, and this office was created for the least developed countries. So out of 193 member states of the UN, I was responsible for 90 of them with a negotiating capacity. So I was known in the UN system because I was the first incumbent of that position. We used to call me, you are the voice of the voiceless countries, because these vulnerable countries were not either financially or strategically or politically important. I decided to take this role of an advocate or a champion for the most vulnerable countries of the world.
Well, you accomplished a phenomenal amount while you were there during that tenure for not only developing countries, but for so many other initiatives.
So I developed a strong faith in the willingness of the people to develop their situation and come out of it. What we needed is to have international commitment and support to them. Genuine commitment. The international community comes up with big ideas and big thoughts, slow in implementation, as we are seeing in the case of climate change these days. This is a terrible situation where commitments were not filled up or commitments were not made up for the vulnerable countries.
Well, I know that it was a great deal of responsibility when you were, it was an honor, of course, but when you were appointed president of the Security Council, during those years as president, you succeeded in passing UN Security Council Resolution 1325, in which the Security Council acknowledged for the first time the role and contribution of women in peace and security. What peace building skills did you utilize most to persist through tremendous resistance and cultural bias to attain the unanimity that was necessary?
Well, that's a long story, but I will shorten it. I sort of scribbled down a few points. I'll share those with you. In preparing for the resolution 1325, I would say one key thing came to my mind again and again. And we articulated that in a say that if you are serious about peace, take women seriously.
Yes.
So that was the point that we would make always. And it was more than 23 years ago, on the International Women's Day, on 8th of March, as you know, as the president of the Security Council, following in extensive stonewalling and intense resistance from the permanent members, the 5 permanent members of the United Nations, I was able to issue an agreed statement on behalf of all 15 members of the Security Council, which formally brought to global attention the contribution women have always been making towards preventing wars and building peace. The Council recognized in that significant norm-setting statement that, and I quote, peace is inextricably linked with equality between women and men, and then affirmed the value of full and equal participation of women at all decision-making levels. So this is the significant part, participation. That participation is very important. Yes, prevention, protection, these are also important points. But I believe if we give equal opportunity for participation to women, like having at decision-making levels, at political levels, at say in the levels of judiciary, in police force, or in among the lawyers, we will sure that the women's rights and women's role will be recognized much better. Women can handle for themselves. So that is why we talk about women at the peace table must be there, because the moment we find women are there, there is a qualitative change in the discussion, because they keep much ahead of their personal gains what our children and grandchildren will get, how the country will shape up, whatever we are doing in trying to reach a peace agreement. So that is what I say. Generally, we say that when men gets involved in politics, they want to be something or someone. When women gets into the politics, they want to do something. So this is the difference between men's approach to power and politics and what women see. And this was always an experience which I found myself. I had traveled particularly extensively in the Western Africa, where now lots of military coups are taking place. So there I found that women are really in charge of running the country in a normal way. Because when their men were fighting each other in the bushes, these women were keeping the society moving, keeping the giving the food on the table, sending the schools in the children, taking their seniors or aged people to the hospitals and giving the health services, and keeping the fabric of the society untorn. So that is why I believe that they have the capacity. And when men did a peace agreement or came back home, they were surprised to see that women have managed the affairs very well. So these are the things that came to my attention, and I felt that after the Beijing conference for the Fourth World Conference on Women, I found that that conference for the first time connected women's role with peace and security. And I felt that Security Council is in charge of peace and security by the UN Charter. And Security Council must take it on board as their mandate. So I have been lobbying with other countries to do that when I was not a member of the council. But still, as a Bangladesh ambassador, I said, why not? Everybody sort of said, it is not possible because the permanent members are against it. And that's why in January 2000, Bangladesh became member of the Security Council, elected member. And in March, coincidentally, I became the president of the Security Council. So that was the moment of opportunity for me. And I said, why not I initiate that resolution which I have been talking about or asking other countries to do. And that is what started. I started working with a time frame of 8th March because I wanted to get the resolution on the International Women's Day. It is a norm-setting document. This is the first time Security Council in 2000, 55 years after its coming into being, recognized that women have a role and contribution to make. Previously, women for the Security Council was only victims of rape, victims of refugee situation, victims of hunger, victims of homelessness, but never as an equal contributor to peace and security. And that the norm setting that was done by Resolution 1325. So this, I feel very encouraged, and now civil society, women's organization worldwide has taken up. After that resolution, there were 10 other resolutions of the Security Council identifying what to do. And Security Council also decided to ask each country to make a national action plan to outline what are primary focus of their countries on equality between women and men, and how they can be involved in a positive way in that process. So that was the big thing, though nearly 100 national plans are prepared as of now, and maybe the remaining 93 countries will do that soon. That is my expectation. We should be able to pull out something out of this initiative. This is the third year I'm participating at the Global Peace Education Day observance, and I believe that we should now start thinking of a practical thing, getting a UN mandate for this day so that we can hold each country, international community responsible for observing this day. And this should be as the years proceed, this should be observed in every school of the world as a Peace Education Day.
I agree. And as a member of civil society, as well as the Global Peace Education Network, I want to encourage not only what you just said, but please encourage the leaders to include party, include festival, include joy,
Yes.
not just
Yes.
meetings. We as humans, we get
That's
so
true.
lopsided in our lives. We want to be productive about everything, but joy and getting together and showing one another community, that is so important. And so if we're going to have a Global Peace Education Day, can we also have part of that to be celebratory of human life?
Well, you know that we have an International Day of Happiness, 20th March. In
Yes.
2012, I was the drafter of that resolution.
Really?
And, yes, as the senior advisor to the President of the General Assembly at that time, I drafted it on his behalf, and it was adopted. 20th March every year. So we have that opportunity, but I think the promotion of or promoting the global peace education should not be taken as a chore or as a task. It should be taken as an enthusiasm, as a exuberance, as a thing of happiness that we are doing something which will make the world a better place.
Yes, yes. Okay, so as a world-renowned peace educator, you have developed extraordinary peace-building skills. What peace-building skills do you value most and utilize most as a peace educator and peace builder?
Well, I will start by objecting to your telling me that the world-renowned peace educator, which I am not, but I am a student of peace education, you can say. But peace building skills, that's a difficult question. But I would say seeing or participating in various peace negotiations or peace arrangements, I believe for a personal skill, peace building skill, two T's. T's are important. One is trust, the other is transparency. Very important. You need to have the trust of the parties concerned, opponents, and every element. That trust in you is very important for a skillful peace builder. So that is what. And then transparency is very important because, well, trust is also, they should have faith in your impartiality. They should have trust in you that he means good for our community. That's why he is engaged in bringing us together to talk about peace. So let's do that. And so that I have found time and again that this worked both as a negotiator in the UN system or outside. The trust is important. You cannot be a good chair. I could get the Culture of Peace document after 9 months as a consensus document because the member states had trust in me, because they left it to me. And finally, despite long efforts, we had finally a document. I didn't want to put the Culture of Peace as a voted document that some countries, even if one or two, would vote against. So I wanted it to be global document agreed to by all, as you mentioned a few times. So I believe trust and transparency is very important. What you are doing, there is nothing secret. You should do. Of course, secrets is important because you are trying to bring two opponents parties together, or maybe 3-4 parties together. So sometimes you need to keep your cards close to your heart or chest, but you are to be transparent about what you intend to do. What are the elements coming out of you? And you should make everybody participatory, that everybody should know that is their demand and this is your demand, and that is another party's demand. So how to bring them together, and so that at the end of the day, they feel that they have reached most of their goals, objectives, but not all, because other party wants something else. So the negotiator had, or the peace builder has made every effort to bring all people on board through accommodating their various, sometimes contradictory objectives. So they have done that. So this I learned very well in the negotiating process in the UN among member states, but I have seen that also working on the ground. And then I also believe two other things are important. One is the patience. You have to be patient. You cannot be pushing the parties to give up too early, or yourself give up too early. So that is very important, patience, and also commitment to peace. You are a peace builder, and your commitment to peace should be unquestionable. That is what I believe. There's trust, transparency, patience, and commitment. These four are very important skills that is needed, and I found it very useful all the time.
Well, I'm struck by how you think it's so important for all parties to feel heard, even when they know that they won't get everything that they want, that it's important for them to feel heard by the leader of the negotiation. That's wonderful. So my final question, and I would like to hear your final words of encouragement that you would like to convey to our experienced peace educators, as well as all of the passionate new peace educators who are coming to the movement for the culture of peace.
Thank you very much. And I believe that my words are for everybody. It's peace educators play a key role. That is very sure. And we are discussing our interview is on the occasion of the third annual conference of the Global Peace Education Network. And so that's very relevant. And I thank you for asking me for my words of encouragement. But I think my words of encouragement are for everybody. I think this is very important, that we should remember that as I said, the culture of peace is like each one of us every day being strengthened in our commitment for promoting the culture of peace and nonviolence. I believe that that is very important, and that is why when I go to teach in the university, my students ask how to become to inculcate culture of peace. I said, smile, be gentle to other people, hold the door for somebody to go in first. These are the things that people should know, because this creates your confidence in yourself, that I can face the challenges of my life through peaceful means, through non-aggressive ways. And that is very important to tell the students, for peace educators, that you can and you need peace for fulfilling your or reaching your objectives and goals. If there is no peace, you don't receive anything. And so that's why peace is so important. And you said peace is profitable. Profitable not for the community and society in general, but profitable for each one of us in reaching our goals and reaching our challenges, meeting our challenges. So that is very important. And we say also, we use 1325 element in this, which is very important. My message to peace educators is that please do not ignore the role of women in your peace education, because this is an integral part of it. Because otherwise, I say that peace is not possible without development. And development is not achievable without peace. But neither peace nor development are conceivable without women. So that is the story that I continue to repeat. So culture of peace is, as I said before, is a movement, is not a revolution. You cannot reach culture of peace within even 2 decades. We have tried, but it is not doing well in that sense in the terms of member states. Whenever the member states take something, governments make policies. And students or teachers or universities know that this is the policy of the government. As a matter of fact, whether we have a document, the Declaration and Program of Action on Culture of Peace, but this is a wonderful tool for the United Nations. But the Secretary General is not using this tool. So that is why in my article, I wrote why there is so much of anathema for culture of peace. And that is my point, that you have a tool, a window of opportunity for building peace, for promoting the culture of peace, but you are not using, you are using the traditional methods of sending peacekeeping missions. This is what I call the hardware of peace building. But we need software. We need gentle approach. We need training of mindsets. That is very important. Peacekeeping missions we had sent to many countries many times, and many countries for decades, but nothing is happening. So we should refocus. Secretary General should, in the context of the future summit, should talk about the culture of peace, and then how to secure a future secure the safety of the planet. Because now in our concept of the culture of peace is not only the human beings are important, but our planet, our flora and fauna, everything is very important to us. The climate and nature is absolutely important, and we should bring that in the context of peace education. Children should grow up knowing that we are part of the bigger world and bigger global environment. So anything that we do to destroy that environment, any plastic bottle we throw away, we create problem for the world. And now we are seeing that, how climate change, whether you are abusive or not, climate change is touching everybody, good or bad. So that is why I believe it is important. And I would also say that the culture of peace is like I sometimes say, that is like a ripple. If you throw one stone, there is a ripple. Throw another stone, another ripple. And all these ripples combine and unite. And then we see the force of the culture of peace. So that is what we should do. And finally, I forgot to show you this. This is Creating the Culture of Peace, a book which I and President Daisaku Ikeda of Soka Gakkai International wrote together. He asked me questions, I respond. And this is a new format of the book, but this book says many things you asked me questions about. My childhood, Bangladesh movement, all these things are in this book. So you can get it also from any of the booksellers online. But I believe that this has told my story for the first time. And there is a big paragraph on why it is the culture of peace and not a culture of peace. So that is what I tell you about. And in this process, I am deeply appreciative of my colleagues in the civil society, in the global movement for the culture of peace, who promote this noble objective in every possible way. And thank you for organizing this wonderful interview. My salute to you.
Well, I have had more questions generated, and we will have future opportunity to discuss them, I hope.
I encourage you, Dr. Sheldon, to have a part 2.
Okay. Well, thank you. You actually just answered a little prayer that I have, because I want to get deeper into many of the things that you've mentioned. Your Excellency, Anwarul Chowdhury, I can't thank you enough for being here today. I also want to thank you for being your authentic self your entire life. Authenticity is so important. And so you've shared with us so much. And I just wish you the very best. And thank you for being a member of our network and an important member of our leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again.